So today we are going to get into Mario Hammonds. Mario Hammonds is a federal informant that was used by the FBI for good information previously, and he gets used again with death row records. And we'll get more into Mario Hammonds at a later date, but the relevant thing that we want to talk about, first we want to play you the Suge Knight kind of thing that happens with Ice-T and Soledad O'Brien. And Suge Knight disavows that he has anything to do with David Mack, Kevin Gaines, Rafael Perez. And why is that important? Well, at the time, Soledad O'Brien and Ice-T have puzzled looks on their face as they're witnessing this argument that's happening between Reginald Wright Jr. and Suge about whose guys these were and who knew them. And why is this important? Well, why are they arguing? Well, they're arguing over who is going to take the murder one beef with rapper Christopher Wallace. That's what the argument is really about. And as we talked about yesterday, Russell Poole always thought that Suge Knight was behind both murders. And towards the end of his life, he started to realize that there was a difference between Death Row Records and Suge Knight. And he started to realize that this was a coup d'etat inside the record label. And so when we play this, you'll hear Suge Knight disavowing any knowledge of them. Now, we learned from the Kevin Hackey, witness statement to police that Reggie Wright Jr. knew these guys, that he was the one that brought them in to Death Row Records. And so we add that up with the denial of Suge, which you'll hear right now.
I never had a conversation with none of those dudes. Never met those dudes. They never worked for me. They knew Reggie Wright. They didn't know me.
So we just heard that denial from Suge, and you can see that this situation, and now we add this witness statement. Now I'm going to give you the detective notes from this, and there'll be a link so that you can see it. And we know that Suge Knight often takes credit for things that he didn't do. And now Suge Knight is newly in prison, and he wants to have some street cred or whatever, and so he tells everybody that he coordinated the hit with Biggie Smalls. And Mario Hammonds gets a third-hand confession from Reginald Wright Jr. And as you can see from the detective notes, Reginald Wright Jr. always visits with Norris Anderson to the prison. And what we've learned lately is that at one of these visits, and it was fairly early on in Suge Knight's incarceration up at Mule Creek, that Norris Anderson gets pushed out of Death Row Records, and Reginald Wright Jr. is in, running the record label. So the coup d'etat is now complete, and it's complete by Reggie either using this as leverage to push himself in. And we've seen Reggie use leverage. He's used it with me. He's used it with Eugene Deal. And he's used it with other people. Leverage. Reginald uses leverage like an alkie drinks his beverage. We see it in many times. He understands and knows how to use leverage. Norris Anderson is out, and Reginald Wright Jr. is in. And that's what we see. And Mario Hammonds takes the confession of Reginald Wright Jr. about how the entire hit went down, about coordinating it with cell phones, about all of this information. And we're going to get similar information from other informants. And we get closer and closer to knowing the truth that the LAPD was behind the hit on Christopher Wallace. Now, it wasn't the entire LAPD, but it was certain rogue cops inside of the LAPD, and one of them was working on duty at the time, and he came over and he kicked the shell casings to foul up the crime scene, chased off witnesses so that he could derail this case. So they were working from the inside and they were working from the outside on this hit, and to derail this investigation, to shield the city of Los Angeles from an $8 billion potential liability. More later.